Yeah, baby.
Yeah. The Mac is back. Back with another video. Hello, the initiated. My name is Marcus Junikala, and today we're checking out Homestead Piano by Fracture Sounds. Another Fracture Sounds release, a good tempo going there. And as I've said before, at least so far, no apparent loss in quality. Quite the opposite. I was really impressed by string formations. It's one of my favorite string libraries out there. Obviously done in a very specific style, but yeah, good stuff happening in Fracture Sounds world. In terms of what this is, it's obviously a piano. Kind of a homely piano, apparently. Let's take ourselves to the one sheet which I got for this. I assume it's okay for me to show this, but yeah, about what this is. Homestead Piano captures a cherished family heirloom of Fracture Sounds founder Will Bedford. This vintage upright piano accompanied Will on his journey into the world of music, and now, taking his years of experience sampling some of the most sought-after pianos on the sample market, he had created a very unique and special addition to our piano range. Excuse my reading mistakes, but designed as a starting point for both composers and songwriters, this inspiring piano has been captured in meticulous detail with a captivating selection of tools and bespoke atmosphere layers to adjust the sound to your preference. Whether you're composing a heartfelt ballad or an evocative film score, this instrument offers the nuanced expressiveness to add intimacy and a feeling of home to your music. All right, interesting. So it's kind of like also supposed to be like a inspiring tool. You know, many composers do compose primarily on the piano, and you know, if you get a very good feeling one, I do get the approach here. Features, they say, our most characterful piano. So that's interesting because they obviously have many pianos. My introduction to Fracture Sounds was the Woodchester piano. I think that's the name, as I'm sure many people had that as their first contact point to Fracture Sounds, and still a fantastic sounding piano. I'm actually kind of interested and concerned about how similar or different this is going to be to that. Obviously, if it's similar, then it's still good. But you know what the differences are going to be. Interesting to check that out. And you know, that's a plenty characterful piano already. Recorded in a dry and intimate space, every detail has been meticulously captured. Set of stereo pencil mics above the soundboard and a spaced pair at the player's position provide, that's a lot of P's, exceptional realism, making it easy to blend with other sample libraries using the built-in reverb options for external plugins. Similar to the softer Woodchester piano. Okay, here we go. Every aspect of Homestead has been captured, including pedal noise, hammers, and even the performance movements. Nice. I actually do like those kind of things. I think my first library that did that, the first one I played was Unicorda by Galaxy Instruments? I believe so. Still a fantastic piano, still one of my favorites, but that one has some of those squeaky chair and other movement noises, and I really like them as an option. Obviously, if you should be able to, you know, control whether they're in there or not, but I do love them for certain types of sounds. When you really want that atmosphere or that feeling, it can really do wonders for recording. Enhancing the humanity behind the samples. Response settings, customize the piano's playability, advanced velocity response graphs. We separate dynamics into timbre and volume. Okay, that's cool for greater control. That's very, very nice. as a concept at least. Timbre scaling lets you adjust the range and curve for triggering dynamic sample layers, while volume scaling modifies how note volume responds to velocity. That's excellent. I always rave about the difference between textural actual changes versus volume, and a lot of library developers unfortunately just think it's okay to just stay in the volume department, but that's just not sufficient for someone like myself. Some key info. So this is going to be released on Tuesday 16th of July, which I'm presuming is when I'm also releasing this, 6 p.m. BST. Intro price. This is going to end on the 15th of August 2024. So $59, pounds 59, euros 59. So no, change in price there, even if the currency changes or changing the numbers. I maybe that's more of an accurate way of putting it. And then full price is going to be 79 in all of those respective currencies, including VAT. Cool. Then you also get these bundles when they release a new product. They tend to bundle it with other things as well, which have so far have been very reasonable offerings. So this time Petrichor, which is the woodwinds library, which I very much think is super strong for like textural shifting pattern woodwind stuff. So Petrichor and Homestead piano, that's going to be 99 for dollars, pounds, and euros, including VAT. So that seems, I don't remember how much it costs, but that seems, I think it's, way more than that on its own. Check it out. But seems pretty like a pretty solid offering. That's going to be available until the 15th of August, 2024. Then we have a picture of this, which shows the symbol on the piano, which I was going to touch on, because if we go here, you can see on the interface we have that logo there on the left, which to me looks like a mixture of something like mysticism, occult related meeting Zelda or something like that. So that's actually quite an interesting symbol. Yeah, Zelda probably more than anything else, but a very, very cool detail. I love that they included that. Makes it, feel, like their little project, very personal, and I like those kind of approaches. So it has atmosphere layers, 9 new atmosphere layers. Cool. Process samples from the library or other sound sources like strings to create stuff. Cool. Yeah. So compatibility, contact player 6.8 and above. So that's what you need for that. Let's go back to this view. Let me close this one sheet. And not much more to it. Overall, obviously, there's a ton of piano libraries out there already, but there's no category where new great sample libraries are not welcome. So just because I don't, a lot of people say certain areas are saturated, but that's kind of an irrelevant argument for me, because if something is good, then it's good, and it's gonna be valid no matter how saturated something is. And I think that should be the aim of anybody creating anything. So yeah, and I also have a ton of piano libraries myself, so I'm very interested in seeing if and how this fits into that palette. For me, I tend to be a very big fan of the upright sound, and especially these kind of intimate, homely pianos. So at least in concept, this is my kind of a thing. That being said, a good piano, whatever it's like, is going to be good. And obviously grand pianos also have their use cases. transparency-wise, Fracture Sounds did send me this copy, so first of all, thank you to them for doing that. That being said, all opinions are my own, both in good and bad. Haven't been asked to say anything one way or the other, nor would I ever do that. In terms of what you'll be hearing today, it's only Homestead piano in action. I don't add any effects, no EQ, no reverb, nothing. So everything is just as it's coming out of this box. I have a limiter on the master bus to make the level for this video decent and listenable, but it's set to be as transparent as possible. If I produce any clipping with that limiter, I'll let you know and I'll adjust accordingly. So if you see me adjusting something that's not happening on the screen, that's what I'm doing. Oh, you can hear a bit of pedal noises there. Cool. I think that's about it. As I can't say as always, but as usual, as it usually is. Let's go with that. This is a blind demo. I haven't played this at all yet, so you'll see my full authentic response to it. We'll probably have to get some kind of a level going first, so bear with me as I do that. But we're just going to start by playing this from a completely default position. So the way this is, by the way, structured is everything is, in here in this interface. So when you open the side panel, you only get the one, NKI opening up from there. And in here, in the sort of snapshot area, you get different mixes. So you go balanced, bright and rich, cinematic shimmers, front and center, great plains, rainy day, sit still, spacious, stratosphere, Sunday school. So I think, yeah, let's play all of those and we'll jump in and tweak things as per our interest. So let's start playing. That was the limiter clipping. So yeah, when you go for those lower notes, it's definitely gonna obviously have, well, not definitely obviously, but this has more energy there, so we gotta pull it down a bit. So what I'm usually afraid of in these type of pianos is that when you go to this sort of lower mid-range or upper lower range, things can get very sort of muddy. It's very typical for a piano to have a good zone. Like with a lot of grand pianos, it's sort of in this sort of a area or this sort of an area. If you're looking at the camera there in these sort of octaves, but then you get sort of blurry sections in between as well. And usually with these type of upright pianos, I'm concerned that this gets kind of blurry and muddy and there's not enough tactile qualities there. You're missing this sort of sharper transient presence. But this one really has that lovely warm foundation. But then at the top, you get that clarity, you get that tactile nature. Again, that's the limiter. It's pretty tricky to find a decent level for you guys here. like even here, this chord could get super blurry, kind of just, yeah, vague and muddy for a lot of pianos that go for that warm sound. But this does that, and it has that crispy grit at the edge to make those transients audible. Like, that's a pretty tough thing to play, to go for like a chord in this range. But that actually, obviously it is not very detectable there, but I actually like that sound a lot. So here the top end, it's kind of like a glistening add-on. So it's, if I'm doing these kind of octave doublings, that's a very kind of soft glistening top end. So it's not going to be like super, at least with this preset or this mix, doesn't give you like a very sharp top end there, nor would you really expect it for this kind of a piano. But, you know, so you could pair that with like a Spotlight Grand, for example. Spotlight Piano, I think it's called, to give you, which has a really nice like crispy top end. But if you wanted this rounder sound, then obviously this does that. But the upside is stuff like that, which is very nice, soft, hopeful sounding top end. Yeah, playability wise, this plays beautifully, as you would expect from Fracture Sounds. That's always been a strength of theirs, right from the Woodchester days, you know, from that time. So yeah, really pleasurable to play. Excellent control of dynamics, and you know, through that dynamics to the texture of the piano. And this is texturally super rich as well, so you can really dig deep into it. You can go in soft and it responds to your playing, and you can dig deeper, and it seems to really nicely express the kind of things that I'm after. Like those really quiet notes, it's just nailing the response. Yeah, super, super cool. So I wonder if that is that the same thing as balanced? No, I don't think it is. think the atmosphere is more intense there. And also it's sort of like they say, more balanced, more evened out, not as sort of soft there. Let's go to bright and rich. So to me, one of the marks of a fantastically recorded instrument is that it's very responsive to different types of treatment. So when you get an EQ, you can very easily carve out or enhance certain areas. Maybe carving out is not the right thing, but you can adjust the spectrum profile of the instrument, and it begins to it responds very nicely to that treatment, and due to that it can take on all kinds of different forms. And this is, to me, like a core mark of a fantastic library, because it's, you know, libraries that come out of the box and they sound fantastic in one style, they're terrific things, and sometimes seems like that's almost the needed required approach to achieve a certain type of a sound. But there's like a higher tier of sound as well, or a higher tier of technological engineering achievement, which is a fantastic sounding instrument, fantastically recorded, but it's still responsive to a bunch of things. Because if something is super, let's say, you know, during recording or post-production, very compressed, for example, or very reverberant, those things can be impossible or very difficult to undo. And they're not just going to sound, even if you can sort of do it, they're not going to sound as full and pleasant. This is one of the things that Fracture Sounds have done really, really well for as many releases as I can remember, that they remain very responsive to treatment. And again, here you can, this is, to my taste, a bit too much, a bit too compressed. Or, you know, getting a bit, I actually want to see if they have any, doesn't seem like there's a specifically like any compression going on here. But I guess I'm going for that kind of the brighter piano sounds don't tend to be my kind of a thing. But the fact that it can go to that zone and sound still very appropriate, and you know what it's going after, is always a very impressive thing, and a very important thing for me, and certainly one of the requirements for like a elite level sample library. Cool, very nice. Cinematic Shimmers. That's a cool example of how flexible this system is, that it can do. I'm guessing here on the reverb, it's some modulation going. That's you know, a pretty good sound. I like that modulation on the reverb. But yeah, again, shows you how much these things can do. And for a very long time, I've said that one of the very big strengths of these libraries are the atmosphere layers, because you can just remove the original source sound and just do fantastic cinematic pads with the atmosphere. So again, that seems to be very, very much the case with these ones. Okay, so that's very loud. Really liking this sound. Super intimate, clear, but it's still, you're very much close there. Very warm, very evocative. Nice. Again, I love how it retains the clarity here while still sounding warm. That's a really difficult combo to achieve. This one is called Great Plains. Very pad, shimmery kind of a thing. Rainy days. Another shimmery pad thing. Sit still. So a more muffled, pulled back sound. Really liking that as well. Spacious. Quite a few of these paddy things. Stratosphere. So I'm personally not like a big fan of the kind of shimmery pad thingies. I usually, if I use them, they're going to be like a very subtle enhancement. In many of the presets and this, you know, the settings in many of the other libraries, you get good examples of that where it's kind of a subtle addition. Many of the default settings when you open these up, it's a really good example of that. It's kind of like a slight presence reverb enhancement, gives a kind of a tint of an emotion to them. So that tends to be my preferred way of using atmosphere layers, or then I just use them on their own as big pads and I put like a reverb on there. So not a huge fan personally of the glimmery paddy piano combos, but hey, they're there if you want to go for them. Sunday School. This has a really nice presence. So looking at the reverb, has a room on. As I've said before, the reverbs have been, you know, surprisingly good. on many of the more current releases. So really being impressed by that, and this has a really nice atmosphere to it. So yeah, we had a crash there. Not sure why. There's clearly something up with my system, so can't really speak to what caused it here. I need to do like a system cleanup and make sure everything is as optimized as possible. Clearly the CPU use here is not much to speak of. We are sort of hovering at about 10%, 11% use here. So would assume it's not the library, unless there's some kind of a system compatibility kind of a issue here. So I've been having some issues here, so I would presume it's something due to that. But yeah, Sunday School sounded really good intimate sense of space here, so pretty impressed by that. Reverb. There you can hear the pianist really nicely, so that's working really well. I don't seem to be able to get like just initialize that from the snapshot options. I don't even know if there's a button to reset that. But yeah, we're back in the initialized state. So let's go through this in order. Let's just pull back the color all the way down. So as per some of the previous releases, seems like it's a more of a subtle control. This is back at normal. So yeah, that's a very subtle thing. It's kind of like slightly calming down the edge of the piano. And if we fully go to the max with the color, so that definitely becomes not only brighter, but sort of more nasally. So this is not so subtle to my taste. You know, far more apparent than the low color or the darker color. Yeah, it kind of calms it down. With this as well as with some of the other releases, I very much prefer the darkest color. And again, I like that it's a very kind of mature, subtle control rather than like it being like a super apparent, what would you call it? Like a shelf EQ type of a thing, like a tilt EQ type of a thing. So I really appreciate it, because if I want to do stuff like that, I can do it with a third-party plugin. I'd much rather have these type of controls in the instrument sort of very refinedly and maturely slightly tilt its response, but in a way that's still very musical and sounds like it could be like a version of the instrument rather than just in like a tilt shift EQ thrown on the piano. So let's keep that at that setting. Timbre Shift. So this says triggers and repitches neighboring notes. to change the timbre of the instrument. Okay, interesting. Let's max it out first. That's a really cool effect. Let's pull it back to the middle. This seems a bit janky to me. It's kind of jumping around. I don't know what's going on with that. If that's in need of an update. So Timbre Shift in the middle. Very soft, very round at its maximum. So very much kind of clarifies the sound, moves away from that soft, round sound, more sharper, clear. But there's also a bit of like a blur between the notes, and it's actually very, very interesting, a pleasant sound. So you lose that kind of body and that warmth, but you gain that sort of clarity and also a bit of, I can't really find the right word for it, but it's kind of like a bit of a grit, bit of a blur, bit of a phase shifting kind of a thing. I actually really like it. Yeah, that's a really cool control. That really diversifies this piano a lot. That's a huge thing in my book, because most libraries don't offer that. And if they offer something like that, usually it's too kind of exaggerated, and it sounds sounds more like there's post-processing on there instead of a different capturing method of the piano. So this sounds really good. Timbre Shift all the way down. Interesting. Back to the middle. Back down again. The body, the presence, the warmth, the juice you get down here is so good in this. Like, it kind of, when you go to the minimum level with the Timbre Shift, I don't know if that's the right term, but in terms of this control here, you just get more of that warmth, more of that body, more of that type of a size. So I'm actually probably would work with either extreme here. It very much depends on the part, and it's kind of impossible to know until you have the part written and then you test these things. So I do assume that the middle position is also going to be useful, but tend to be more like an extreme type of a person anyway. So yeah, but I love this full spectrum of this. And also we have this color control. So what happens if I go back to normal with this Timbre Shift down? And back down. This is super useful stuff. Again, just 2 controls and I'm getting a massive range of super cool, interesting, great sounds. And again, I didn't even go like to the maximum end of the color, which let's do that. Yeah, that puts a bit too much nasally edge there, but again, that's very dependent on the music, of course, and you can go less. You don't have to go maximum like I do with absolutely everything in my life. Yeah, let's push the Timbre Shift back up. And this is really cool when you have a bunch of, let's say you have a bass guitar or something like a contrabass, whatever going on here in the lower range. This is a really nice way of still having like a fantastic piano sound that's sharper, and it doesn't, you know, take up as much space here in the low end. So if I look at my analyzer here, here where I'm playing, it's at like 150, 200 hertz, and then there's a lot of space down there below that. So if I pull this down, yeah, it kind of definitely shifts about to 80 hertz, this low end here. So that's a fantastic way of, you know, let's say you could start like your intro or your verse with this piano sound if you wanted like a fuller intimate thing, and then once let's say a band comes in or other instruments, you could transition into this, which is kind of lighter, has more separation and more space in the low end. So that's really cool. Then we have a character control. Okay, so yeah, this does include compression as well. Applies EQ and compression to the instrument mix. Cool. So let's pull it all the way down. Back in the middle. All the way up. Okay, so interesting control. I appreciate that it's there. When it's called a character, I find that these two controls control far more character than this one does. I obviously understand they have to call it something. I don't know what they will call it. I would probably prefer the character off in most cases. I like the amount of like control and kind of tucking in that it does offer you. But I can hear that I would probably want to do that myself with my own compression and EQ. I love that it's in here because a lot of people can utilize it, and it does sound great. But if you just hear and know that you can do better with another approach, then you know you should go ahead and do that. And obviously, we don't have any control of the details here. Like in the reverb, we can still go in here, choose the type, the fade in, the modulation, the damping, the size. So some control on this one would be cool. Like wouldn't even necessarily have to be like in terms of compression, you know, attack, release, etc. But say, you know, maybe some basic controls over that would be very cool. It would make this a lot more cooler. But I don't know if this is based on like recorded different signals, you know, if they split the signals and took it through different kind of processing. Again, everything that's here, the decisions they've made, they sound good, but it's just a matter of, is it going to be like, well, first of all, you try different settings and see if it's, you know, perfect for your sound. And then it's a question of, do you have the engineering ability and ear to do better on your own? But I like it off, because then I can hear the natural full range of dynamics and texture here, and then I can, you know, hear what I want to do it for myself. But yeah, as far as I can tell, you can't dig in there, because with the response you only have these. In the setting, sample start, pianist noise density, clarity filter, force pedal down, and then atmosphere decay mode. So yeah, at least as far as I can tell, I can't control any of that. But again, I appreciate the inclusion because it's going to be super useful for a lot of people. Not sure what the EQ is doing there. Probably like a simple shelve or tilt shift kind of a thing. Atmosphere intensity, we'll go to that once we get to the atmospheres. Noise, key wise, so let's just give you an idea of the range. Fully off. So this is the sound of, you know, what you can actually also hear through my microphone here if I'm playing when I'm speaking. It's the actual just the mechanics of the key, which makes sense, but sometimes you can mistake that for some of the components that are further down in the piano. This is a pretty redundant explanation, but you know, it's the sound of the key, just like it says. I've seen a lot of people mix that up with other stuff, which is why I bring it up. But cool. Pedal noise maxed out. And completely off, nothing happens, obviously, which is good. You have a option there for dynamics, pedal dynamics, so medium, soft, hard, auto. Okay, cool. That's very interesting. Actually, a super useful control now when you think about it. I'll play all of them again. So that's actually super useful because they have a kind of different, distinct feel or sound to them. So that's a quick way of like really just pairing the pedal noises nicely with your thingy. Then you have a pianist with your song. Pianist control. So yeah, so some libraries do this differently. They start the pianist noises when the playing starts, which I would presume is the case here. Some libraries don't do that, so if you just turn it on, it's like the pianist is always, you know, shuffling there in their chair. I apologize for that dancing. So let's play a bit with that maxed out. So yeah, you can hear some stuff happening there. Kind of had to, it's kind of the noises in there. Obviously we have the pedals on as well. Kind of a subtle thing. I should probably turn off the keys and the pedal to just try and hear the pianist. So yeah, you can hear stuff happening here. In the settings, you get the control for the pianist noise density. So let's make him really shuffle in the seat. he's really booging in there. Really cool. I love how those are recorded. Very natural, super intimate, sounds like the real deal. So a bit of that in there if you're doing like singer-songwriter stuff, or you're doing like a very intimate cinematic thing where that's appropriate, then that's going to be super cool. Very nice imaging and sense of presence and space. I'd probably use that for like singer-songwriter type of stuff if I wanted to add a bit of realism in there. But yeah, cool. You got the reverb, room, hall, shimmer. Let's max out the room. Pull down that pianist. You've had your spotlight. Yeah, that's a good sounding reverb. Let's max it out. I'm going to turn off the hemispheres. Ooh, sorry for that. That's a bit of a difference. So yeah, obviously I'm not using this, showing this in a very subtle way, but you get an idea of the extreme ends of the equation. This is the hall. Again, these are good sounding reverbs. Nothing wrong with them whatsoever. That's a maxed out mod on the shimmer. Then you got a convolution with clean hall, concert hall, big old hall, warm stage, scoring stage. Yeah, it's just a lot of stuff. Let's do clean hall. Cool. So yeah, very, very competent reverbs, very good sounding. So if you don't have any of those, this will probably suffice in most cases. And again, it really comes down to the music. Stereo width, let's pull it all the way down. So pull down the reverb. Very warm sound even for that super mono thing. Actually very pleasant sound there. This is the stereo width at full. That is the limiter. Crapping out. That's still the limiter crapping out. So yeah, a bit ear bending obviously, but you'd want to use these pretty subtly to enhance your image. Let's keep just the raw sound going. Again, this is one of my favorite controls when it comes to these libraries, which is the perspective control. This time it doesn't seem like we can't individually jump into mic positions, which is interesting. Because I believe in the other ones you can click between atmosphere control and mic position control, but I don't see any way of doing that. Yeah, so seems like this is all you get in terms of miking positions. So let's go for the close one. Really liking that sound. Fantastic. Let's go to the roomy sound. Really nice as well. It's actually roomy. Again, what I love about it is that it sounds like a natural capture of a space and it not like a reverb doing its work. Very different tone. So yeah, I love that sense of that space. And again, we're just using one end of the Timbre Shift. Let's go fuller. So that's the darker Timbre Shift with the room. This is the close Timbre Shift with the close mic, close perspective, dark timbre. So that's interesting. Actually, for the darker one, I like the room more. For the sort of brighter one, I like the close more. So that's really nice. I would say the three most powerful controls here are well, first of all, the Timbre Shift, then probably the perspective, and then the color. Color is kind of like, yeah, well, it's pretty significant. It gives you like that edge change. Yeah, I mean, I would also love to see the mic positions as we did with many of the previous releases, because the perspective slider kind of controls the mic balance here. I'm suspecting that's still the case here, but it's just happening under the hood for whatever reason. But yeah, again, still super powerful. And in any case, I would most of the time use the perspective slider over the individual mic position adjustments. It's just so much more convenient. It's really nicely balanced. So in most cases, I would not have to dive into I wouldn't want to dive into the balancing sort of individual mic by mic. So this is really cool. Somewhere in the middle. really liking this sound. Yeah, you can get so much out of this. Just the timbre shift and the perspective slider. Bit of limiter clipping there. Let's pull back. Such a beautiful sound there in the middle. That room sounds really, really nice. Yeah, very cool. All right, let's move into the atmospheres. I thought this one was called Adobe, but it's Abode. So this sounds like one of the ones sourced from the piano. Sounds like an E-bode piano maybe. Very nice. You can do a ton of stuff with that. It kind of like also in certain ways when pushed sounds like a bit of like a string, like a orchestral string type of a thing. So you could also pair that in there. This one is called Wonder. Kind of a droplet-y piano thing. Still sounds like piano sourced, at least for the most part. This one's called Acre. Yeah, so like a reversed processed piano. These sound all at least dominantly piano focused. I did see that they mentioned some other sources like strings, but oh yeah, they did mention there were more of them. So that makes sense. Let's do Lark. It's an interesting one, kind of a hybrid between some kind of a synthy thing and maybe some orchestral string thing. Very nice sound. Again, kind of makes me wish I could go in there and tweak some things, but I can definitely get very far with that. That's a very, very nice tone. This one is called Haven. Again, kind of a stringy, synthy thing. Very nice. Pair that with a bit of reverb. Sounds very cinematic, kind of, yeah, has that very nice cinematic edge. Briar. Again, another droplet-y piano thing, but this one is more pad-like. Cedar. Yeah, kind of sort of more dispersed pad pulse thing. Ozark. So yeah, string instrument, very nice. That's a really cool sound. You can do, you can make that like the focus of your cue, even so. Very nicely done. Sage. So that's like a synth, or at least stretched out, synthesized, or yeah, let's go with that. Synthy sound pair with that piano droplet thing. Cool. Yeah. All right. I can imagine you can combo those into pretty nice layers. And as I always say, you could take one of those, put a crazy reverb on it, and you have an instant beautiful drone ambience creator there. So I think that brings us to a close here. In conclusion, fantastic sounding piano. I think it nails that intimate, you know, upright tone. I think the Timbre Shift is a fantastic control here, which really makes it so that this is not just a piano with one sound. It's really, at the very least, a piano with two sounds if you put them to the max, but then you obviously have the spectrum in between. So this can really shift into many different gears. If you were going for like a whatever kind of an intimate upright sound, you would struggle not to find an appropriate tone for that from this. I really like both. I think at its lowest setting, it's a really super warm, beautiful, full sound, but it's still very intimate. And then at its fullest, you get this sort of a thinner sound, but more focused, and also sort of more granular in its texture. Super nice. Both are just fantastic. I prefer the color set to its darkest in pretty much any situation. At its full, it becomes a bit nasally, but obviously you don't have to go extreme, so you can adjust that. But to my taste, in most cases, the color, I tend to prefer the darker stuff. Character, this gives you, as it says, some EQ and compression. Doesn't seem like you have any additional control over those parameters, but if you just want a bit more control, a bit more sort of tucking it in, this gives you that. It's tastefully done. Whether you want to do your own EQ and compression depends on your own level as a mixing engineer, but it's a good inclusion for those who don't want to do that. It certainly sounds very appropriate. Atmosphere intensity, that just intensifies the density of what the atmospheres are doing. Noise controls, in summary, just really, really good. I really appreciate the pedal dynamics control. This might seem like super funny the first time you look at it, but they actually sound quite different, and they give you very different tones for your work. I don't know what auto is. I'm guessing it's somehow responding to the speed of the movement and the nature of the movement here. I didn't really have time to test that, but that's there as well. But that's a fantastic control because you might want to go for a certain type of sound. Pianist controls, these are really superbly done. They sound very, the imaging of that is super cool. It's not like overly boomy or or brittle, or the clothes noises aren't like, it's just really, really well done. And it's going to be fantastic if you're doing like singer-songwriter stuff and you want to go super raw and kind of simulate that that recording rawness. That's going to be fantastic. Reverbs, again, very positively, I can't say surprise me anymore at this case, because they've been really good in the Fracture Sound releases. Obviously, you don't get endless control over parameters, but they sound really good, and in many cases you wouldn't have to go to a third party to enhance your sound. Perspective control, fantastic. Again, the room sound is beautiful, the close sound is beautiful. I'd probably start with the room in most cases and then blend in a bit of the close for the amount of presence that I want to go for. This doesn't give you, as far as I can tell, access to the individual mic positions here. But like I said, I tend to use the perspective control preferably anyway, either way. So I actually prefer this. But yeah, for those of you who want that, if you just wanted to go with one mic position, I mean, this tells me that there isn't, if I'm thinking about this right, there's only the two. I don't know, but yeah, works for me, sounds fantastic. Atmosphere layers, really cool stuff. Some of them add these kind of droplet piano elements that can be super nice as like a subtle supplementary complementary expansion to the room sound and the reverb as well. So used very subtly, they can give you a big, very emotional sound. Like they add that X factor emotionally, because sometimes it's, stuff like EQ, reverb, those kind of things don't necessarily give you that. So very subtly, almost in a way that you won't hear it, but you kind of feel it more than anything. A bit of an extra added dimension there can be really cool. And then some of these just, could be creators on their own, really unique sounds. I think, was it Ozark and Lark as well? Sort of very unique things. And as always, you can take a layer and put it through like a reverb, and it's going to be like a big, huge pad drone creator. So yeah, really, really, really good stuff. It's a great sounding piano. Again, like in the beginning I said, oh, this kind of sounds like Woodchester to me in concept, without playing it at all. And they indeed say that it's in the same style. So first of all, it's good that they manage that expectation, because I'm sure there are many Woodchester piano lovers out there, and this comes out and they ask, well, do I need this? Like, what's the difference? Hopefully this demo helps you hear it for yourself. We didn't do an A/B comparison here. We're not going to do it here because I just don't have enough time. If you want to hear something like that, let me know. But again, you can just play it on your own system and compare it to this demo video, for example, at the very least, or listen to the Fracture Sounds demos. But I don't, at least on the basis of being a Woodchester user, I don't get this like, oh, this is just the same. In fact, I certainly, at least on this basis, think about this as an evolution of that. That's not to say that Woodchester won't have its place in time, but this is obviously a maturation of that origin story that is Woodchester piano. So yeah, very cool. And again, going into this, I was a bit sort of, you're kind of scared, like, because I have a ton of pianos, and you're going to wonder, like, is this going to be like a good effort? And then it's kind of like just going to fade into the background because you already have your standard pianos and the stuff you go to, and they're obviously good quality already. But I have a feeling that the next time when I want to reach for that kind of intimate, upright sound, whether it be kind of warm or sort of more grainier and sort of more clarified, it's probably going to be this. And that's a very high praise in my book, because I have a ton of pianos, like a lot of pianos, and there's no short of competition here. So I think they nailed this sound really well, and it has so much flexibility with these perspective. With this perspective slider, and especially the Timbre Shift, is really, really, really cool control, which makes this surprisingly diverse, upright, warm piano. Because, like I said, it can kind of do pretty much everything I can think of in that space. So, yeah, I'd say this is a really, really good achievement. And like I said, I'd probably reach for this first the next time when I'm looking for an intimate upright piano. So that's it for this video. If you have this already at home or at your studio, let me know what you think, and certainly let me know what you think of this video. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Finished.